their residential project, 180 units, and the height that they were looking for. And through that process, we've amended the master plan in many ways, and so what you have before you is a product of that conversation. I would say the biggest part of this case has been a tension between the many constraints on the site and the need to provide some additional density and new types of housing in this area of the city. The master plan preserves the character of Falls of Neuse Road and Raven Ridge Road by providing the parkway buffer. We are transitioning and actually providing a greater transition than would otherwise be required by the UDO to our neighbors to the east. And we're locating the development and the height within the center of the site. And also just say the topography of the site is such that that building height, where it is located in the middle of the site, is actually sitting about a story below Raven Ridge Road. And so the perception and Falls of Neuse Road. And so the perception as you're driving along Falls of Neuse Road is that those buildings will really appear as 3 stories. In order to, again, accommodate all of those constraints, that has led to how we've accommodated height and provided for height in the middle of the site, and would happy to address some any concerns about that. That's been one of the topics of conversation throughout the process. Want to touch a moment on the traffic, as Bina was explaining. She noted that there are 2 legs of an intersection that are F, and I just want to note that that's an F without this development anyway, but we are only adding about 1 second of delay to those 2 intersections. So we're able to accommodate this new housing, additional housing, with really minimal impact on traffic. And so just to close, I want to just emphasize that we are consistent with the future land use map. We are consistent with the key comprehensive plan policies, particularly those about providing additional housing opportunities, a variety of housing, protecting the character of the area, environmental protection. We're consistent with the key area plan policies, consistent with the urban form map. And so with that, I will kind of reserve the rest of the time. I do believe there is a representative of the church here that would like to speak as well, but
You'll reserve the time. Okay, if you could hold that. Okay. Sir, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening. My name is Attorney Stefan Bowens, and I represent Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, located at 10720 Falls of the Neuse Road, which is the property that is immediately adjacent to this proposed development. And on behalf of the church, I'm here tonight to express their support for this particular project, given the idea that, in fact, we know that this property at some point is going to be developed. We as the church, in this case, believe that this may be the most appropriate and best use for the property. And therefore, the church has asked me to come here tonight to articulate their position with respect to this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, could we set
Madam Mayor, just for the clerk, he was for the project, so
Yes.
it was 4:21. He probably spoke 45 seconds. So we just need to subtract that if what's left.
So, sir, you'd like to speak as well in favor? Okay, so if we could put that, okay, we'll leave the clock there.
Bob Fry, 1409 Coolmore Drive, Raleigh, 27614. I am the president of River Oaks Homeowners Association and also the co-chairman of Falls North area plan, a small area plan. I came here tonight not realizing that the CAC was abolished, but I want to share something with you about this developer versus the history of this land, which many of you maybe know or not know. This developer reached out to the community, as the attorney shared with you, and engaged homeowners, businesses, and we had opportunity to collaborate, to talk back and forth, to be able to work together, to be able to spend many hours actually working together. As a developer for over 20 years myself and coming from Los Angeles and developing for 15 years, I can tell you that community involvement and community input is critical and vital. This developer is a good example of engaging with the community. This site and other sites along Falls of Neuse, which was part of the small area plan, we worked many hours, and there were many, many people that would come to workshops and give their input. And by hearing that the CAC was abolished tonight, I came here not knowing that. I am very disappointed. You've taken away the voice of the community, of homeowners, of businesses. And again, Mr. Barker and this development team should be complimented for the fact that they listened. They asked questions. They brought exhibits. They asked for input. And they made changes. This is what democracy is all about. This is what community involvement is all about. At one CAC meeting, we had over 400 people attend. Now, I don't attend other CAC meetings, but I can tell you in North Raleigh, you have a community that's very engaged and very involved. So I would just admonish you, again, I didn't come here realizing this, but I would admonish you to rethink this. Please, do not take away the voice of the community. Let people work with developers. For the 20 years that I developed in this city, that was what I expected as a developer. I look forward actually to working with the homeowners who came to me sometimes making requests that seemed unreasonable. But at the same time, by listening, I understood another side of the story and their concerns.
So, excuse me, there's only 1 minute left. I don't know if Mr. Birch wants to hold that minute. Are you okay with that?
You want me to finish? You want me to stop?
No, I'm just asking, he said he wanted to reserve some time. Do you want to hold that minute?
Yes, I didn't necessarily want to cut him off, but
We'll hold 1 minute. We'll put 8 minutes up. If we could hear from, raise your hand if you would like to speak against. One, can you come up and give your name and address for the record, please? And we'll set that at 8 minutes.
Marshall Clausen. I live at 10421 Blue Dun Way, and I do live in Raven Point, across the street. When the development was developed, the building height was limited to 2 stories and shall not exceed 30 feet height. When we heard this case, the CAC said it was going to be 4 stories. Then at the Planning Commission, they removed the number of stories. Now, I'm sure that was one of the reasons that it was a 3-3 vote. Now we hear that it's, let me get this right. Now we hear that it's stories above the 4th in the 60-foot zone may only have 50% of the floor story above the story below. Well, why can't they just come out and say, it's going to be 5, it's going to be 6? Well, we don't know because it says story. That's not one, it's multiple. That's plural. My other comment would be that the stormwater, the city will not, he said it, they talked about it at the Planning Commission. The city will not allow third-party access for the stormwater device. They also had mentioned he could have a deeded access down to High Justin. Well, that's not there yet, so they don't have that. So they mentioned that they could put it on their own property. Well, if they add the 25 feet access road on the eastern property line, his whole plan has to get shifted to the west. And we haven't seen that plan. Will the access road that they have still have a 50-foot buffer? Will they still meet 40% forestation? We don't know because we haven't seen that plan. With this new concept, are they stacked now 3 high, 4 high? Because they just lost a lot of usable land by moving everything to the west. Again, we don't know. I would recommend that you enforce policy for area plan Falls North 11.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this project? Okay, Mr. Birch, would you like your 1 minute?
Okay, one thing. We did meet with the applicant late last year, And they mentioned, we asked at the meeting, and he said it was going to be for sale units, no rentals.
Mr. Birch, you have 1 minute. Could you just tell us the price point of these units?
Yeah. As I'm addressing these others, Jacob's going to come up here and give me that answer. So within a minute, we'll have that.
Okay.
So with regard to stormwater, again, we have deeded access to where we anticipate having our device, and our plan reflects that, and we have to comply with the stormwater requirements to have access, and that's we will do that. Question with regard to the story calculation. Again, at one time we had stories in there. As you all probably have heard throughout your time here, is a ever-changing thing about how height is calculated, what counts as a story, what doesn't, what counts as a basement, what does not.
That's true.
How do you calculate height? And so what we went with instead of stories is height in feet. And then we, again, always anticipated a rooftop amenity, so that's why we had that 50% limitation. And with that, last couple of seconds for Jacob on the price point.
We're anticipating the 4-story units to have a more affordable unit towards the bottom level. It's about a 1,400 to 1,500 square foot unit. The upper levels would be 2,400 square feet with rooftop terraces, probably a little bit more of your smaller families or maybe your person moving out of Bedford. Then the townhomes along the back would be around 2,400 to 2,500 square feet. So about a third of the units would be around 1,400 to 1,500 square feet, and we anticipate those to hit a mark in that market that is not there of 250 to 275. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, so nobody else here to speak? Okay, we are going to bring this back. You having trouble with that tonight? We're going to bring this back to the table. We'll close the hearing. Councilor Cox, this is your district. Do you have anything?
Again, the main point of contention with this has been the height. But like with a lot of rezonings, there are pluses and minuses. And my sense of the community is that at the CAC, the vote was against, largely because of the height. But on the other hand, there are many good things about this development, including the number of units and the vegetation and the setbacks and so forth. So if we close is the hearing closed?
Yes.
It is. So what I would like to do is make the following motion. I move to adopt the proposed consistency statement dated February 4th, 2020, contained in the agenda materials, and to approve the zoning amendment.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm
See-
reading a different one. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. This has been a long time in the making. Okay, next is Z619.
This is a request to rezone 1.88 acres from DX with a 5-story height limit and shopfront frontage to the same base district with a 40-story height limit, shopfront frontage and conditions. This request is inconsistent with the future land use map and with the 2030 comprehensive plan. The Central CAC voted in favor if affordable housing conditions were affordable housing was provided. That condition has been offered. I just will note this has been heard at public hearing previously and sent by the council back to Planning Commission to allow discussion of affordable housing and additional height, both of which are showing up in this request at this point. So we went from a 20-story request to a 40-story height request, and they've added conditions about affordable housing. And then the Planning Commission recommends approval unanimously. Their previous review, they had a vote against because of the affordable housing question. So we're here. The site's over here. That didn't show up very well. So this is on in the warehouse district. It's the majority of the block, bounded by Martin, Harrington, Davie, and West. And you can see that there's lots of DX zoning in this area. It's a mix of heights. So you have 20 stories to the north at the Dillon. You have some 12, some 5, some 4, and some 3. The mouse is given up for the night. So an aerial view of that site, you can see we're just south of the Dillon and north of the railroad tracks. There is a little gap in there, parcel that's not included in the request on the block. Some views, view from West Street, so you're kind of at Raleigh Union Station looking away from the station back towards downtown. A view of the site, the cam portion of the site, and then another view looking back from Davie Street along West. And then just a reminder that there is a significant grade change at that west, on the south side of the west facade, setting up the possible connection for West Street later. So they've prohibited some uses. They have made some requirements about the width of the pedestrian connection between Martin and Davie because of that height grade change. They're saying they were going to make that connection at the higher elevation and around the corner. They have specified some building materials, have required preservation of building facade on Martin Street, and height and step backs per this exhibit. So you can see they're putting 40 stories in the middle of the block, with then 7-story step down to 3 stories on the on the Harrington side, step down to 3 stories on the Davie Street side, and then 7 to 3 stories on the Martin Street side, and just a 7-foot setback from West Street. Some transparency requirements along that pedestrian connection so that the building, you can see what's happening in the building, creating a more active condition on the street there. And then also requiring documentation of buildings designated as contributing structures of the National Register district here. So this is in the Depot district. They are requiring a particular kind of outdoor amenity area for themselves, and some standards for structured parking screening to help manage light. And then